Welcome back to the Med Creator 101 podcast, the go-to podcast for HCPs on all things social. I'm Mimi Banks, founder at MB Social, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, board-certified dermatologist and Med Creator, Dr. Dustin Portela.
Good to see you again, Mimi. We are today thrilled to welcome a guest who's taken bedside expertise and blown it up as a trusted voice in maternal health on social media. Tina Betango, better known as Mama Nurse Tina, has spent 17 plus years in nursing, specialized in labor and delivery since 2012. She's built a community of over 1 million people across social media platforms by demystifying pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum recovery, and breastfeeding, all with humor and credibility. Tina, welcome to the Med Creator 101 podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us. I'm so excited. This is something that was an organic meeting through doing work together from one of our clients. So I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, it all kind of worked out. It all just trickled into place.
Totally. So before we dive into your social media, we always like to get to know our guests a little bit on a more personal level. So we have a few questions. Favorite day of the week?
Oh, you know what? Monday, because the kids go back to school. Yeah. Weekends I have 4 kids, so they're packed from the moment it's Saturday morning till the moment it's Sunday night. And then Monday is the catch-up day.
Basketball or hockey?
You know what? I would have said hockey until 2 or 3 weeks ago. We went to our first NBA game. So I have a kid that plays hockey and I have a kid that plays basketball, and I like watching them both. But we went to a Raptors game, an NBA game in Canada, and it was really, really exciting. I didn't think I was going to like it. I thought it was going to be really boring. It was really good. Then the other thing I went and saw is baseball. So if you put baseball in there, it would be even harder to pick because I enjoyed that as well. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be awful. It was great.
Basketball is good because it moves fast. Baseball is a little slow.
It is a little bit slow, but then it's you're just on pins and needles waiting for the big thing to happen. And then it happens and you're like, oh my God.
And you turn your head, you miss it.
Totally. I went and got jerseys and I heard a home run. I was like, of course it was.
Dustin, what's your favorite sport?
I like watching college football or college basketball, but if I'm going to go to an event, I actually love going to baseball games.
Interesting.
Just the atmosphere and just being in the park. And I've been to Wrigley Field, and I think it's just iconic. And Cubs are not necessarily my team, but I love going to professional baseball games.
I don't think I would ever watch it on TV. It's incredibly boring when my kid is watching it. But I was like, this is really cool. It was great. And the lights, and it was awesome.
It's so funny you mentioned Cubs because I'm from Chicago and grew up going to Cubs games. But I just remember sitting in the sun and it being long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, mine was in Canada, so it wasn't sitting in the sun. They had the roof up because it had snowed in April because that's how we roll up here. So, but go Jays. Go Jays.
Here's a loaded question. If you weren't a nurse, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, that's a toss-up between a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor before I wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
And then I failed out of all of the subjects that were required. The organic chemistry was the worst thing I had ever sat through. But I always wanted to be a doctor. So I married one instead. But I think I would be probably something on stage. So I'm doing stand-up comedy now. And I probably would have picked that up sooner if I wasn't a nurse. Something like that.
Interesting. So you have the hybrid of both, which really leads us into getting to know you more and learning about how you started from working in an emergency room to labor and delivery and then becoming a creator online. What inspired you to start sharing this evidence-based pregnancy, birth, and breastfeeding advice? When did you start? What platform did you start in? All the things. How did you start or why did you start on social?
You know what? I started doing mom comedy. I needed a humorous outlet. For me, it was I went to school and I got this career and I loved it. And then I found labor and delivery nursing and I loved it even more than emergency nursing. And then I got pregnant. And so we know you have babies and I had so many babies. And in Canada, we get a year maternity leave. It's not fully paid, but your position is held the entire 12 months. So you can just be with your baby and not worry about it. I would go back to work for a bit and then I would come back and press. So for 10 plus years, I was either pregnant, breastfeeding, or taking care of really small kids. So it was a fun outlet for me to throw it up there. And then I popped one up about sort of 3 things you need to know about giving birth. And it popped off without surprise because then you start to realize there's this huge need for information and not everybody has access to information, which is unfortunate, especially in birth, because we're seeing climbing rates of birth trauma. And we have this Black maternal mortality that is still off the charts for our Black moms. So it's we need this accessible information. And I said, wait a minute, there's a big place for this on the internet. And then I think once you start creating it, then you fall into that niche and then you see how much garbage information is within your own niche. You'll get everyone looking at it like, yes, the garbage is terrible. So it's like, this is it. Like, this makes this degree so much more valuable to me to be able to bring this information and this experience to people in like a tangible, digestible way.
What platform? Was this Instagram? Was it TikTok?
This is TikTok. I didn't get on Instagram. I missed the jump of the Instagram game. I'm always like late to everything. Like I remember a friend of mine in high school was like, just check out this Facebook. And I was like, oh, this is so stupid.
Wait, you were in high school when Facebook came out?
Long time ago. Yeah, it was a while ago. And they said the same thing about like, oh, you can just text people. And I was like, why? Why wouldn't you just call them? And now I'm like, oh, I was late to it. I didn't start on Instagram till I had been on TikTok doing labor and delivery for probably a year. But then once I started putting up the content, it took off very quickly. So again, you're like, there's this need on all these platforms for this information. And I've come to realize too is that not everybody's on every platform. So people will be like, oh, I know you're from Facebook. And I'll be like, oh, they'll say, do you have a video? And I said, oh, yeah, it's on Instagram in this playlist. And like, I don't have Instagram. It's like, oh, okay, right. Same with YouTube. People are like, I don't have YouTube. You're like, oh, okay, all right. So I think it's important for creators to really spread that information out across all the platforms because you're just going to cast a wider net and make that more available to more people if you're on all the platforms.
Totally. And I want to just go back to that. So, what made you decide, okay, I'm going to create a video. This is what it's going to be about. And I'm going to post it on TikTok. Was there something like that happened?
Somebody said, like, I would want to know that. You should put that on there. And I said, okay, I'm going to see what happens. And it was like, yeah, people were like, oh my God. And then you put up another one and people say, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh. And then I think it's easier as like a healthcare creator. Once you put up a couple of videos, you can probably resonate with this, is that people will put in the comments like, well, what about this? Or what do you think about this? And so then it becomes an easy way in the beginning to create content because the questions are already there. And so not only do you have an idea for content, because it's obviously applicable if someone's asking you directly, you also have the audience requesting it and there for it. So it sort of makes it great because you're like, this is exactly what you want to know. Please ask me more questions because then I'm just going to make everything you want to know. And then I think obviously as things go on, you can, make things again. You can always do things better. You can edit. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started. Is like you just put up one and then you see the need and you're like, I'm going to answer this, this, and this. And then you can create 3 more videos the next day. And it's kind of a snowball effect, which is nice.
It really also is a testament to means that whatever content you created resonated because to get those kinds of questions and to get that level of agreement or engagement is really a dream for somebody on social.
Yeah, it's great. And I think too, especially with birth, but I think with all usually medical conditions, like if you've never done it, you've never done it. You know what I mean? Especially with birth, like you'll never get it unless you've done it. So the questions are endless because people are so curious. There's an element of stress. There's an element of fear. There's an element of love because people are just wanting to do the best for their family and their baby. So it's like it's a really emotional part of your life that I think there are a lot of questions because the unfortunate thing is people, they always say like, I want to do it right. And I'm like, but there's not like a right way to do it. You just have to prepare for kind of a bunch of angles and then sort of flow with it as it goes. But I think people in healthcare also have to be cautious because a lot of times if you're educating on a specific niche, it's a very vulnerable thing for them. And so you want to be cognizant of that and not sort of utilize that to sway them one way or another.
Well, I also think people want to share their stories. So, especially with label and delivery, I'm like about to share mine as when someone's talking because it's so relatable if you've gone through it.
Yeah, I love hearing a birth story.
So, as you started posting on social media, particularly around healthcare content, you're answering questions. At what point did you have a shift where this is becoming a thing? Like people are relying on it and it's more than just posting casual videos from time to time.
Actually, I remember it. I shifted my screen name. It was Mama Squared because I have 4 kids. And I shifted it to Mama Nurse Tina. And people were like, oh, I see. Oh, you changed your name. So I probably did mom content for maybe a year. And it's great. It's fun. Like people like it. But I don't know. There's not really a drive to follow because you're like, how much mom content is valuable in my life when I'm scrolling. You're like, this is where the value is. Like, this is where people can grab that tangible. So it was probably a year in. I made the switch. And then a little bit after that, I started posting on Instagram. And then somebody was like, you should post on Facebook because interestingly enough, Canadians cannot monetize on Instagram and TikTok. So we can only monetize on YouTube and Facebook, which doesn't make sense because Facebook and Instagram are both Meta.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's fine. I'll just be up here in my Canadianness. So somebody's like, you should post on Facebook. And it blew up faster than any other platform. And I think the reason is because You get a lot of engagement on Facebook. It's never great engagement because it's like there's a lot of people that just want to fight you in the
Totally.
comments. Everything you say is never right. There's a lot of boomers over there. They just light up the comment section, never in a good way. But it creates that engagement, which pushes it out to more people. And so then you can actually catch people who want to follow you for that info. But I was very quick to monetize on Facebook. And so that's been really nice.
Oh, wow, that's your biggest platform. You have 600,000 followers there.
Yeah, it's big there. It's a Wild West over there. Any creator will be like, yes, it is crazy over there. But for me, it was like I would do occasional brand deals, not early in the beginning because you're a small creator. So like to have a little bit of income on Facebook is nice because otherwise you're doing it completely for free out of like the goodness of your heart, which is fine. But at the same time, like I'm also working at the bedside and trying to keep my household afloat and take care of 4 kids. So it's like there has to be some give. And so it becomes that point in time where you shift from working more at the bedside to like putting more effort into social media. And so for me in the beginning, it was a financial gamble because I wasn't making a lot of money. But like to be full in, like you guys know, it's a full-time job to create, to make, to edit, to post, to comment. Like you can't just comment and leave. Like you got to be there with your people. So yeah, it was like probably like a year in, I did the switch to Mama Nurse Tina and then just started casting it on all platforms. And then probably 2 years ago, I started doing YouTube. I had to take a bit of a break from it because again, it's so time consuming and I was editing my own long form. It took me like 13 hours to edit a video. Like this is not sustainable. Like I cannot do this at any sort of regularity. So then we said, well, I'm going to just go all in and hire an editor for my long form, which is game changing as a long form creator, which I really enjoy. It's like my favorite platform is YouTube. But at the same time, you're then paying somebody to make a video and then you're posting it for like 300 views. You're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I think you have to have tenacity and you have to have faith as a creator because in the beginning, you're like, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to pan out. And I've had a couple of things where I sunk money and time into it and it did nothing. And I was like, well, that was an experience. We'll just go.
But in a way, also, you have to have a deeper reason or something that's guiding your why and why you show up.
Totally. The passion is there. And for me, it is absolutely getting that valuable information into the people's hands who need it. And the validation for me comes from people messaging me and saying, like, I watched your videos. I had an amazing birth. It was almost like you were there with me. I'll do consumer shows with brands, which I love the most because those are the people that I'm connecting with directly on the internet. And they'll come up to me with like their pregnant belly or with like a newborn and they'll say like, you changed my pregnancy. You changed my birth. And it's like, that's it. That's why I do it. I'm lucky that it's become successful as a business. That's amazing. That's like the cherry on top. But it's those moments where you're like, this is why I'm doing it. This is it. This is the moment.
I just got the chills.
Yeah. Some of them like have a little tear and I'm like, oh my God. And they'll show me their babies. Like they're so proud of it. Like, like an art project. I'm like, I love it.
That's fun. When you approach content today, and maybe this has shifted over time, would you articulate that you have like a specific goal with your content as a whole? Is that something that you've developed or something that has always been there from the beginning?
In the beginning, it was like to educate. And I look at my earlier videos and they are long and they are just like one angle and I'm just yapping to the camera. And it's fine. Like people, it got the information. And if you wanted it, you would stick around for it. But I think more presently, like I have really aimed to sprinkle in that humor and make the information really bite-sized and digestible. Because people are not going to sit through a 2.5-minute video anymore. Like you can go to Google and AI will just give you a summary. Then you just be like, here you go. This is what you need to know. So I think to really keep people interested and to keep that information relevant and useful for them, I've really tried to put in that humor and that relatability. People will tell me all the time, like, I really feel like this was not judgmental. Like you gave me the info. You didn't tell me which side you were on because it feels like there's always 2 sides in medicine. And they're like, I feel like I can make my own decision now. And I had a laugh at the same time. So I think if you're doom scrolling or you're scrolling, it can get a little heavy, especially if you're in like a medical scroll. So you've Googled something and it's just going to keep giving you the same thing, especially people that are looking up things like birth stories, birth trauma. Like you're just going to get reel after reel after reel of people telling you the most god awful things about birth. So I think for my page, it's like a place where people can come and they can learn and they can like smile at the end of it or laugh because it was like, oh, that's relatable.
Yeah, it brings some humanity into it.
Yeah. The interwebs are scary.
So scary. And you're not wrong that if you can go down a rabbit hole very easily, and especially when it comes to medical information, Dustin and I often talk about this of like the misinformation that happens all over. Everyone has their own take, credentialed or not. So how do you then build trust with your audience. And now you have people who are coming up to you saying, okay, this is my story. This is how you impacted me. What's the secret to building an audience that trusts you like this?
I think it is like being not judgmental. Like we're not looking for shock value. I think a lot of times you'll come to some pages who are trying to get their point across and it's scary. Like the hook is scary, the shock value is there because then people are going to stay and almost against their will. They're like, I don't want to know, but now I need to know. So I think I have remained consistent in that the information is evidence based, but it's presented non judgmentally so that people feel safe to believe whichever side. Because I always say, I don't think anybody making decisions about birth and from what they're learning, I don't think anybody is making this decision purposefully to harm their baby or purposefully to harm themselves. I think that they are making that decision because it's truly what they believe is best for their baby and their body, which is fine. It's not my place to tell you like what's best for your baby and your body. So for me, it's always been like, I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to tell you I'm a science-based girly. So if you're looking for stuff that's like not routed in evidence in science, I mean, like this isn't for you. But the evidence is never going to be like, you have to do this because then people feel up against the wall and they're not going to trust you as a creator because you seem very closed minded. And I think in medicine, nothing is black and white. And so I think the best providers that I pay attention to online are people who will tell you what the evidence tells you. And then they're going to sort of give you information that isn't judgmental. And if you walk away from that post and you choose the thing that's maybe not evidence based, then that's still okay because you're doing what you think is truly best. Like no one's making these choices out of malice and trying to be harmful. People are making choices because that's what they believe is best. So it's important to remind people that they can find all the information that they want online, but in the end, they should be taking that information to their trusted provider who aligns with them and then using it as a conversation starter. Like it should never be your end all to be all.
I love that.
Yeah, I really resonate with that approach. And that's what I try to do on my content is say, here's where the evidence takes us. And here's where I think the marketing on the other side is deceptive. And all I want you to do is have complete information to make the decision you think is best. And sometimes it's not going to be the decision that I would make, but it does build trust with the audience because you feel like you're a partner in the conversation rather than an authoritative figure. I see so much misinformation in the skincare world and with sunscreen and skin cancer. And I can only imagine how much worse it probably is in labor and delivery when it has been a long-standing tradition to prey on the fears of expectant mothers.
That's the big problem too. And like not only that, but my niche overlaps into people who are trying to get pregnant. And a lot of companies will prey on that with your supplements. And these are the things their husband's gonna take this regimen to make his sperm better, and then you're gonna do this, this, and this. Because people are oftentimes, if they're looking for that information, they're desperate to have a baby. They're desperate to start a family. So they're gonna latch on to anything that you can shout with your whole chest because that sounds like the right thing to do. We get tons of emails, like, I mean, just cold emails and sometimes directed emails of people that want you to try to sell their product. And a lot of times I'm like, that just feels yucky because this product isn't something I used. It isn't something I recommend. And it's not something that I think is fair to like put out to somebody who is maybe they're desperately hoping to have a vaginal birth after a cesarean section. And you tell them this one thing you can do and take in pregnancy, you'll help make your vaginal birth dreams come true. Like that's not fair because they're so passionate about trying to get that one goal that they will really latch onto anything. So I think for birth and pregnancy especially, there's a lot of open, big dramatic claims because they know that those people are vulnerable and will open their wallets because they just want whatever is in their end goal. So it's unfortunate.
You're so right. And with all of this misinformation, with all of this stuff that women need to know specifically around challenges, around the reality about labor and delivery, because I learned that everybody has a story and no one tells their story until after, or you learn it after you've given birth, then someone will tell you their story. They're like, I didn't want to scare you. How do you decide what to talk about? Like the topics to cover? Like, where does that come from?
I think that there are certain topics that usually resonate with everybody in the birth world. A lot of people have very similar fears. But I think sometimes too, it's nice to go out on a limb and talk about things that are less spoken about, not because you're going to get the clicks and the views, because a lot of times if you're going to talk about things that are quite specialized, like it just doesn't cast as wide of a net. That's okay because I think sometimes we need to just really get information out there that's genuinely going to help people in a smaller genre of people because those people need information. And if I know that there's not a lot of information out there, then for them, it's probably even harder to find that information. So I think sometimes it is really important to talk about sort of niche down things within your own little area of the internet. But for me, it's just like I will just scroll and either I'll see somebody talking about something that's completely false, or I will think like, what would I want to do? Sometimes I'll Google like what are the most Googled parenting questions. I just did a video on this, a 2-part video, because it's like there are so many questions. There's like 10 top Googled parent questions. You're like, that's a great idea for a video. Because if you're Googling it, obviously you want to know the information. So I'll sometimes do that. Occasionally I will ask Chat GPT. I'll be like, hey, you person in the, I don't even know how that works. Tell me something people want to know. And it'll spit out ideas. And I find a lot of times, like half the time, it's not great information, but sometimes there'll be like a nugget in there. I'll be like, oh, I think I can spin off of that and work with it. So yeah, I think just from experience being on social media and seeing it sort of works on a cycle. The nice thing about my niche is that you're sort of refreshing the pool of people that are talking to you every, 6 to 9 months, because people will phase in and phase out. I have a lot of people that are like, I had my baby, I'm still here. Like, I love the info, which is so heartwarming. I love it. So it is nice that you can sort of recycle information. A lot of times I'll take my older videos that did well back when people could pay attention for more than 30 seconds. And I'll be like, how can I take that 2.5 minutes, I used to talk and talk and talk, 3-minute video? How can I condense it into something that is like visually captivating with a higher quality of production on it, but also like scale back the info so it's like as bite sized as you possibly could need it? Because I think that's what you're going to remember. If you're if you're in labor, you're not going to be like, what did she say at 2 minutes and 42 seconds of that video? It'll be like, oh, right, I remembered. It was like boom, boom, boom. Here's what I need to know. So I think that is nice too for creators if you've been in it for a long time. Like, look back at the stuff because the information is great. It's still great. It's always going to be great, and it's always going to be relevant, and it's always evidence-based unless things are changing, and then sort of tweak that to like meet your audience where they are now.
I love that. And you also mentioned comments, that you look at the comments and that gives ideas also.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and there has been times where I am like just at a creative block. It happens for all of us. You're like, oh my God, I do not know what else I could talk about. So I'll just put up the whole video is like, let me know what you want to know. Pop in the comments. And then you can just do a whole series where you're just replying to comments. And then as you reply to comments, people will comment on the comment video, and then you can reply to that. So it's the easiest way to ask your people what they want to know. You're like, what do you want to know? And they'll tell you. And you're like, perfect, I'm going to tell you about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. You've really done an exceptional job of bringing an authentic voice into your content, which is something I think other healthcare professionals sometimes struggle to kind of balance, that professionalism and maybe the stiffness that we, I think, accumulate through medical training when they just try to turn us into robots. What kind of advice would you give to an aspiring medical creator, a physician, a nurse, a therapist, to balance that professionalism, but bring their authenticity and their voice to their content in the way that you've done?
I looked at it this way. So in the beginning, I told no one where I lived, I still haven't told people where I work, but where I lived, what city I was in. I just said I'm Canadian, because I didn't want, you always fear that someone's going to come for you or someone's going to report you for something that they just don't agree with what you're saying. So they're like, I'm going to make your life really, really hard by reporting you. So I wanted to have like a bulk body of videos that you could scroll through at any point in this, but you could go for a year or more. You could scroll through it and it would always be evidence-based, and it would always be non-judgmental, and it would always be professional. So like there are a lot of creators who come on here and they're swearing and they're cussing, and I swear and cuss in my own life. But I wanted to make sure that if my governing body of my province was ever like, we're going to do an investigation because we don't like what you're doing online, that they could scroll for as long as they wanted to, and it would always be professional and evidence-based. So that was sort of like when I went into it. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely, I have. Don't film at work. P.S. Anybody, don't do that. But when I started creating content like a lot, I said, I want this to always be professional. And I think this in comedy too. Like when I do comedy, I see some comics will get up and it's like if they get flustered or they've lost their footing or they don't know where they're at, they will just start throwing in a lot of like swears and they get louder. And I'm like, I don't find that as funny. I just don't. And so for me, it wasn't difficult to like keep it professional. But I think your personality will always shine through if you are being authentic behind a camera. So I always say, like, go somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed. People are like, oh, I was filming and my husband was there and my kids. Don't do that. No one's like, I'm so comfortable behind this camera. I could have a whole audience and people. I would find yourself a room where there is nobody else, because you are going to sound like an absolute moron when you first start. And you'll do about 85 million takes and you'll be like, was that it? Was that the good take? But I think just pushing record and like remembering why you came there in the first place, and then speaking to the camera like you would speak to the person beside you. Because probably if you are doing content, someone has told you you should do content. I'm almost sure of it. People will meet you in your everyday life, your friends, your family, and they'll be like, you should tell people that. Like, that's really good information. I didn't know that. You should tell people that. They're not telling you that because they think that you're like super awkward and would never look good on camera. They're telling you that because you're easy to have a conversation with and you're knowledgeable and you're confident in what you're saying. But for some reason, people get behind a camera and they're like, I no longer remember who I am. And they just become like a monotone robot. And I did it too. When I watch my earlier stuff, that's why I say, go back and redo your earlier stuff because the info is good. Presentation was probably lacking. So I think just remember why you're there and why people probably told you that you should do what you're doing. It's why I started stand up. People were like, you're funny. But again, then I started stand up and I got up and I was awful because it's different to be funny when you're with your comfort people and the joke is already lined up for you. It's a lot easier to be funny in real life. So it's just practice and experience. And if you can take constructive criticism for people who have been doing it for a long time, then that's even better. Like if you just open yourself up because you're only going to improve. And if you improve, then the information that you're presenting is going to be even more valuable to the people who want to hear it.
Yeah. And I think that's a really key insight that you shared is that when you started making content, you had some pillars that you outlined that you're always going to be professional, you're always going to be evidence-based, and you're not going to swear. And by doing that, you've protected yourself as a content creator, but you also set a standard that you always can fall back on, that this is the foundation of the content and your delivery, your authenticity, everything has just gone up from there, but you always had that foundation. And I think that's important for aspiring medical creators to know is to set that foundation and rely on that as you create content and as you improve over time.
Yeah. And I do think it's important. In more recent times, I've actually connected with 3 other labor and delivery nurse content creators, and we travel together. And they have been lovely because I have seen a lot of creators who will, I feel like, post first, think second, which I think is a bit of an error and overstep. We have a really nice group where we will shoot ideas off of each other. And one of the 4 of us will be able to be like, I'm going to look down the line, and this person, like fourth in line, might be really offended by what we're saying. And so I think we'll be like, okay, yeah, I see that. How can we tweak this so that that person doesn't get offended or so it's a little bit more positive? So I think in my mind, I'm always thinking like, I don't ever want to offend anybody. I don't ever want to make someone feel bad about what they're choosing, even if I think it's funny. Haha, that's hilarious. But if one person is going to be offended and I can see it, then obviously like 30 or 40 more behind them that I can't see are also going to be offended. And I'll give you an example of this. I just put up a video about the Google parenting questions. And I made a joke. I said, like, we're talking about umbilical cords and when they fall off. And my joke, I said, I call it a California raisin because it just like dries up and rolls off. And then I put a clip of the California raisins and I said, if you're old enough to remember the California raisins, like you're too old to be having babies. I thought it was hilarious. Okay. A couple of people in the comments said, oh, I remember them. And I was like, oh, absolutely. Because I'm also currently working on a video about the perks of having babies later in life, right? So I love it. Great. You like it. I love it. So I was like, okay, there's some things coming in here. And then someone actually emailed me directly. And she had said, like, I watched your video. I really, really appreciate your advice. I respect you as a professional. She's like, and then you said this. And she's like, I kept waiting for the joke. And I didn't really feel that the joke ever came. And it just made me feel bad because I'm having a baby. She was older than 35. She said, I'm having a baby later in life. She's like, and I'm already doubting my choices. And if you're going to say something like that, then it makes me doubt them even more. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, that is not at all because I love it, right? So she said, I don't know if you and your team will ever even see this, but I just needed to let you know that I'm like a little bit upset about it. I was in an airport. I immediately emailed her back because I was like, oh, this is not okay. So I put the video in private. I emailed her and I said, hey, I appreciate you emailing me because if you are feeling this way and you were able to email me about it and speak your case, there are lots of people who also feel that way, but won't come forward and say something directly. And so I said, I want you to know, like I've privated the video. I'm going to edit it, which I have. Like I just sent it to my editor. I said, hey, clip out these 2 pieces. It's beautiful. Like it was a minor touch. But I said, I appreciate it because I did not see that. It was an oversight where usually I'm pretty good at picking those things up. I said, I absolutely see your point of view. I said, I want you to know I'm working on this video right now as we speak. If you have other ideas, I would love to hear them as well to cater to a more mature audience who is choosing to have babies later in life. And so I think when you are trying to always think forward, I think it's really reflective because I don't get a lot of bad comments from people. And I know that there are a lot of creators who are constantly, it feels like they're constantly in fights with other creators over things that they've said or posts that they have made, or I have to make an apology because I said this and it didn't go over the way I thought it was going to, which I get. Everyone makes mistakes. But I think if you always go into creating content with that thought of like, is there a possibility that I could offend somebody in like the first couple of ripples? Because I think regardless, like some people are always going to be upset about things you say. But in those first couple of ripples of like the wave, if you are going to offend somebody immediately, then I think you need to rethink the content. It's personal taste.
So I will say that I've learned something that I love that Dustin says is treat your audience on social media the way you would treat a patient coming into your office, your clinic, your practice where you see them. And if you keep that in mind, that in theory should protect you, Dustin and I always say, like, he stays in his lane. I had to ask him what sport he likes to watch. I have to ask him, like, what food he likes. You know why? Because if you look at social, you don't know. And I'm okay with that because I want to follow him for his expertise. If I wanted to find out about food, I'm going to follow a food person. And so I think that that's, first of all, as an older mom, very respectable. And I'm sure she really greatly appreciated that. And good for her for, for giving you that awareness that you could think about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you would never, I always think this when people make videos about things being gross. You would never like walk into a patient room and if they're experiencing something that's like not ideal, you'd be like, "Oh God, that's disgusting." Like you would never do that. Like, so why would you make a video about this patient that came in with this thing as like a patient scenario and like you're disgusted? Because if somebody has that condition, now they're going to think that they're gross because you've like just put that out there on the public. I don't know. There are a lot of creators who I think they post first and then they think about it second.
I like that mindset. Think, then post. Don't post, then think.
Yeah. I'm really lucky though to have that group of ladies because I'll be like, I like that. And then they're like, let's go one further because then we can avoid this first ripple and we can like make it a more positive outlook. Also, I do wonder with like HIPAA, because like if you have one really outrageous patient thing that happened that you thought was just like over the top and like gnarly, but you were very professional in the moment, and then you go and you talk about it online, like how many people out there had that one really rare, weird, gnarly thing that happened to them that saw, a bald dermatologist with a beard? Like, I know you're talking about me. Like, like, I don't know. It's crazy. The interwebs are a crazy place.
It's totally a crazy place. And you talked about, your inner circle of people that you can vet things up. You talked about having an editor. Let's talk more about behind the scenes. Where do you shoot? Obviously not in front of husband and kids.
We're okay now. Like now we're okay, but like in the beginning it was like, get away from me.
Yeah. Let's start with the basics. What do you use? Do you use like an iPhone? Do you use a big camera? What do you shoot mostly with?
I actually have a studio. I built like a little corner studio under my stairs in the basement. But I feel like if anybody's going to have a small space, shoot into a corner and you'll be really, really pleased with the results. So when I started doing YouTube more consistently and I said, I want to like really make a go of this. I have huge 2026 goals. I said, I'm going to do this. So down in my stairs, it's like one corner is just painted completely white. The rest of it is all brown. And I like glued stuff to the walls for sound, like barriers and stuff. So I invested in the studio stuff. And then I invested in a microphone and a camera and lighting. And it's been really, really great. But I think the biggest investment has been an editor, which has freed up my time, which makes my brain a little bit more relaxed, which makes me more creative, which means I can continue to make stuff. My like end goal, I say I have an editor. It still takes me a couple of hours per video because I'm fairly particular. And I send like really detailed editing notes. So I send like timestamps so that they know which clips to use. I send the B-roll I want them to use. I send the screen recordings, like all the things. So my goal of all goals would be to find an editor that I feel comfortable enough I can just send them like the whole raw clip and be like, make this look amazing. And then they'll just send it back to me. That would be the goal, right? So we're not quite there, but I've saved myself like 10 hours of video, which is great. I've done short form in my studio, but I don't know. I don't know if it's like an authenticity thing for me or like it just doesn't feel as connected when I do it in the studio. I can't describe it. I've tried it a couple times. I'm just like, no. So I just shoot it in my living room. It's like, it's got really nice sunlight. It's like me on a couch. It's cozy. And just this mic right here, just like a shotgun mic that I stick up there with a couple of lights. So I have 2 lights upstairs, 1 big lantern light downstairs, and away we go.
And when you're filming, do you batch create? Do you sit down and you're going to film a bunch of videos, or do you kind of do on demand?
No, I do. I'll have like a whole filming day. So like the other day I did a couple of YouTubes. So I do, if I'm doing long form, I shoot at least 2 long form YouTubes. The sad thing is I'm a perfectionist, so it takes me a solid amount of time to film one. because I like to try to do like the longest takes because I personally like the aesthetic I like is when it's not like choppy. That's just me personally. So it'll take me like an hour to film like a 10-minute YouTube video. So I basically just lock myself downstairs. Like most creators, I usually forget to eat and drink because you just get in the zone and you're like, I don't have time to stop and eat because then I got to start all over again. So that'll be like a whole day. So usually I'll do like a day of long form to get like a bunch in the bank that I can work on with my editor. And then I'll do a solid amount of short forms in a day. I'll do like 6 or 8 short forms in a day. So I'll do that a couple of times a week usually. The thing that I don't know, I have ADHD and it overwhelms me. I'll film a bunch of stuff and then I look at all the stuff in my camera roll or whatever and I know how much editing I have to do and then I panic and I just want to like not look at it for 3 days because I'm like, I don't even want to do it because I still edit all my short forms. So that is a thing that I am slowly working on. For a long time, I didn't do anything short with my long form YouTubes, which is kind of a wasted revenue of videos.
Like clipping out of the long form?
Yeah, like grabbing it, snapping it. Yeah. And I think because again, it's like one more thing that I have on my plate that I have to edit. So it's like now I have to like send the editing notes to the editor that does the long forms. I have to edit the short forms that I did. And now I got to try to figure out how to put these long forms in and cut them. And I don't want it. It's just a lot. So just recently in the last 2 months, I do have another editor that I've hired on who does short forms from my YouTubes. So what I do is I send my editor all the things. I cut up all the timestamps. And then I actually delete all the spaces. So it's like one file, roughly cut to the timestamps. And then I save that as a crop file and I send that to the editor that does the short forms. She will look at the long forms once they're posted to YouTube. She'll take that crop video and then she'll make it into short forms. Sometimes I tell her what to do. Sometimes she's like, this seems like a great idea. And then she'll send them back. So she's not super fast at it, but like it doesn't bother me in the slightest because every now and then I'll just get like a Google Drive with like 5 new videos on it. And I'll be like, perfect. And which is great for when you're not feeling creative because we're all going to go through these ebbs and flows where we're like, I don't want to think about videos. I don't want to create them in my head. I don't want to set up and film. I don't want to put makeup on. Like, you're like, I just want to be. And so it's nice to have like a bank.
When you're editing your short form, are you doing that on your phone? Do you transfer to the computer? What apps do you use?
No, I do it on my phone, just in CapCut. And then I just do it that way. It's sort of what I've become comfortable with. And I think putting it on a laptop would just slow me down. Maybe it would speed up in the end. And then when I'm doing like my long form, cutting up all the timestamps, I'm in Premiere Pro, which is what I used to edit on when it would take me 13 hours. So
do you use a content calendar? Based on specific moments? How do you plan out your content?
that's the reason I want to batch content because then it's like it takes the pressure off. So I will plan it around sort of my week. I know that on weekends, kids are here. There's like almost a 0% chance I can get anything done that's not has children running around in it. So I always make sure going into the weekend that I have footage if I needed to edit something. But I really try to do like all of that throughout the week. Then depending on my kids' school schedule, like we just had a big long spring break. So I knew that I'd have a week where I would have 0 opportunities to film. So the week prior was like crazy busy on the filming schedule because I wanted to have like a ton of stuff sitting there because I could always do editing notes with my kids at home. I just can't film with my kids at home. So it just sort of depends, ebbs and flows on what my husband is doing for his work. He's an emergency room physician. He works shift work. And I'm now traveling for work a lot too. So if I know I have a trip coming up, then my week prior is going to be super heavy because I can always edit on a trip, but I can't film on a trip. So
when you're getting ready to film like YouTube or something, do you put a script together, bullets?
I do. So I'm a scripting kind of girl, which I should just try shooting from the hip. I don't know. I like a script. I don't use a teleprompter, which is probably why it takes me so long to do a 10-minute video because I just have the script in front of me. I ad lib, obviously, throughout the script. Like no one's going to do a script like word by word. But the basis of what I want to say is definitely laid out ahead of time. So again, if I have kids home or whatever, that's something else I can be doing is doing long form scripts or long form ideas. I really, really like long form. Like I really like I said, if I could find an editor where I could just create the content and then see the finished product, it would be a dream job because I love creating long form content.
Once you have all of these videos, who's posting it across all these channels?
Hello.
Wow. It's the only team member, an editor?
Just me and an editor. Yeah. So
we'll have to talk after.
So people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. I'm dying. So I create the content. I film the content. I edit the shorts for the most part. Now I have the other girl helping me. But if it's ever like a short where I'm not like in the studio, it's me. And then I post it and then I reply to the comments. I will say this. I do now have a website for the last year and a bit. I do have somebody that works with me that manages the website and the blog posting. Someone's like, you need a blog. And I was like, I need another task. Like, I need another hole in my head. Like, I do not have time for this. So they were like, but blogs are great. I was like, well, that's great, but I don't. Anyway, so I met with her. I said, I know I want a website. This is like, I incorporated it into a business. I wanted a website. I wanted a place for my courses. Now I have merch as well. So she runs the show there. I have no idea how to do anything with a website. I just send her things if I wanted to update them. And then she put all the courses up there. Courses, like we were saying, is just oh my goodness, what a monumental task. So that was something I did probably a year and a half ago. I'm so glad that I did, but it was a ton of work. But they have now paid for themselves. So now it's a passive income revenue, which is lovely, right? So she does the blogs and the website. I send her the scripts for the blog. She turns them into posts.
So let's talk about where you are. Someone is an expectant mother wanting to get pregnant. Where can they find you? What are they going to find on the website?
I would say I think that the website is probably the easiest landing page because it literally has everything linked there, and it has, podcasts and news articles, and then it has all my socials. But also there you will find courses. So I do have a prenatal course, a breastfeeding course, and a baby care course. And then we have actually just launched my merch line, which is my little pregnant buddies. They're like little pregnant foods. They're very, very cute. So there are shirts and sweatshirts. And then I'm actually going to somebody said, I would want to wear one of these as a labor and delivery nurse, as a scrub cap. So now I'm making scrub caps with them because they're so cute. So that's all there. And that's sort of where you can find all the information. Otherwise, directly on socials, I am just, if you search Mama Nurse Tina on YouTube, I'm there. I love it. Love YouTube. Big goals. Come on over. And then I have my other socials. It's just Mama Nurse Tina, MAMA with an underscore. So Mama_Nurse_Tina.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your inspiring journey, and so appreciate your time today.
Thanks for chatting. Yeah, it was great.
We'll make sure to have links to your socials and to your website in the podcast show notes. And thank you to our audience for joining us on this exciting discussion today. Learned a lot of great things from Mama Nurse Tina, so definitely check her out. If this podcast or any of our other episodes have been helpful, share them with a friend, and please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll catch you next time.